So let me set the scene. So we're talking about digital employee experience, and clearly, what that means is people working together in that virtual environment. So that's what we're talking about. Using those digital tools, the likes of Zoom and Teams, etc. And of course, it's not new. People have been doing this for many years. We've got clients that we've been training and coaching across the globe for sort of eight or 9 years. So it's not new as technology. It's not new as a way of working. But for many organizations, that we have been forced to change. Many of our customers have been forced to change over the last couple of years. And probably to some extent, people are starting to feel that working together in this digital virtual world is just second nature now. Some organizations would have been well equipped to make that change. But of course, not all businesses are, and when we have these conversations, it is always important before I put my foot into it and make the faux pas and make the assumptions that it's the same for everybody, because of course it's not. And even with a client of ours, a well-known supermarket in the UK, with their digital teams, where we were working with them in their physical offices for a few years. When it came to lockdown, those digital teams, it was actually pretty straightforward to get them working in a digital virtual environment. But of course, for the front end in the supermarket, where they've got physical goods, where you've got physical buildings, you need physical presence to deal with real people. The opportunities are not the same. And so we just need to recognize when we have these conversations that it's diverse in the types of business that we provide. It's diverse in the types of work that people undertake. So we're making an assumption, aren't we, that when we talk about this sort of digital employee experience, that the digital tools are applicable to them. So when I was thinking about this, rather than thinking perhaps in the more obvious way in terms of the agile enablement work that we try to do, I try to take it back actually to think about the organization, the business, because we can take that for granted, can't we? But if you think about organizations that have grown up, and we still have organizations across the world that are hundreds of thousands of people strong, there's a need for them. And I was remembering, it's actually a conference I went to probably about 3 years ago. And it was something completely new to me. It was about requisite organization. And for those people here who perhaps come from more of an HR background or an organization design or development background, that probably would mean something to you. But very, very well researched set of principles. A guy called Elliot Jacks, whose his foundation, his research stem back to more sort of psychology, about the way people work together. But what they started to do was to define what it was about organizations. Why do we get together as businesses? And it's really quite simple. We come together to create valued goods or services that people want to buy. And in doing so, for commercial organizations, in any case, that makes a positive bottom line contribution. So we come together as people, individuals come together in large organizations to create goods and services for people who want to consume them, and we make money from it. It's very, very simple. But why is it that we have to come together in organizations? Why do we come together in businesses? I think it's because, or at least Elliot Jacks would say, it's because we need to achieve those efficiencies. If we were doing all this as individuals, it wouldn't be efficient. So we come together in organizations to achieve efficiency, but we also come together because we want to achieve competitive advantage. Again, as individuals, if we're all competing against each other, that becomes difficult. So we come together to form businesses to achieve competitive advantage. And it really comes from releasing that human imagination. So it's not just physical work that we do. The thing that really delivers that competitive advantage is the ideas that we have. And those ideas don't just happen by themselves. they quite often happen through collaboration, where people come together and they've got an idea and they can bounce those ideas off each other. But sometimes they actually come out of a clash of ideas, something that's completely different that might come together. And some of the most successful music composers, for example, they've been really successful because they will explore many different genres of music, and quite often those things clash, and it doesn't seem obvious that those things are going to stick together. So we come together, different perspectives on life, different outlook, different ways of thinking, different ways of behaving. Those things spark ideas. And then when you're inside an organization, if you really want to do that, you do need to be able to trust that you are there for the right reasons, that you're going to be looked after for the right reasons. You're going to be given the things that give you the satisfaction, either the satisfaction from the work that you do and seeing the goods and services that are valued by people, or even the social aspects of the work. But you want that satisfaction to come from it. So it's important that we continue to recognize that people come together in businesses. And if organizations, if businesses were not relevant, we would have evolved away from that a long time ago. Even if you think about the plethora of startups that have happened over the last couple of decades, very quickly, aspirationally, they want to be large organizations. They don't want to be individuals. They don't want to be 2 or 3 people. They want to be large organizations. So I think it's here to stay. The thing that starts to define the organization, though, is that sort of culture. It's the way people are connected and the way that they collaborate. What is the philosophy within the organization? What are the values? What are the expectations of people? What are the practices and the behaviors that we expect to see from each other? Those things coming together. And that, I think, I don't have a simple answer to that in terms of the impact that changes to the way that we work are having an impact on culture, but I'm sure it will be. I'm sure it will be having an impact, and organizations will be evolving. So in terms of that impact, what it presents are different opportunities, different constraints. That by working digitally, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden we have a whole load of just opportunities. It's going to bring constraints in for some people. And we need to recognize there are individuals at the end of the camera. There are individuals sitting in their homes with their own personal lives. And as we were talking earlier, that the camera can then become intrusive. It can become intrusive. Or for that matter, for the person where work and getting out of the home used to be their release from difficult, home life. What about those people? What do we do for those people? How do we support those people? And how do we ensure that we sort of maintain that sort of impetus for being inclusive and diverse in organizations? So we do need to recognize, and I still think that the term manager, although a lot of people don't like using it these days, they prefer to talk about leaders. And observation is that we have very few leaders in organizations, but we do have a lot of managers. We do need to remind managers that what their responsibility is for creating an environment for people where they can be productive, that they can do the work that they're there to do. A manager needs to do that. So managers need to think about the environment in which we've got. How do we get around the constraints? How do we use those opportunities? And we need to recognize the fact that the employees in the organization, their eyes have been opened to new opportunities. Very simply, the investment that people make in their own personal lives to get the job done, whether it's as simple as traveling to and from work and spending hours a week doing that. What the changes of the last couple of years have just opened people's eyes up to new possibilities, new horizons. So considerations for business, I think, continue to shape things around people, around real people, around individuals, and managers taking responsibility for understanding human needs and recognizing that there is that diversity within the workforce. Finding out what is important for employees. And it will be different across different parts of the business, across different age groups, across different sets of diversity. And then finding ways of continuous learning, trying to develop that culture where people can find better ways to do the work that they're doing, and having the freedom and the confidence to do that. So in a nutshell, things are changing. There are great opportunities for us. As leaders and managers, it is our responsibility to support people to find better ways of working through that digital experience.